We're all, still hung over a little bit from the Iowa caucuses, which were called at like 5 minutes after they began. I think this is the great
Yes.
thing about the news media is they just cannot wait to call the winner of the election before all the votes are even cast. I mean, not even
Yeah.
counted,
No,
cast.
agreed.
DeSantis
Agreed.
people, big mad, doesn't matter. But you had a piece in the Bulwark this morning, finding a silver lining, because I'm looking at that and going, here's Donald Trump just running up the score, gets 51% of the vote, wins 98 of
Yeah.
99 counties, wins college. I mean, it's just like bad on top of bad with hair on it. But then there's your piece, Mona. You find a silver lining. Help me out here.
Okay. So I do think that there was a silver lining. First of all, let's pull back the lens a little bit and look at Iowa. I mean, and you talked about this. I mean, the fact that Iowa gets all of this attention and is seen as a bellwether. I mean, let's not forget, President Huckabee and President Cruz and all the people who've
President Santorum,
Santorum, who've won Iowa. It doesn't mean anything, even for the Republican nomination. Far less for the general election. It is the most rural, whitest, most evangelical state that's in the primary lineup. So it's not representative. And further, you had this awful weather, which I think you're also partaking of to a degree, where it
-4
was,
right now.
So -4, and it was minus like 15 or something last night when they were actually traipsing to their sites. And so turnout was way down. So we, in 2016, which was the record of turnout for Iowa caucuses, it was only 15% of the Republican electorate that showed up. 15%. And this year it was way less than that. Okay, because of the weather, probably. Though you can never know for sure. But
yeah,
okay. So it's unrepresentative. Let's put all that out there, and let's also note that Trump is basically running as the incumbent, right? I mean, he already served as president. And he got 51%, but he was the president. I mean, he should be getting numbers like an incumbent would get, right? You would think. And instead, he's not. He's getting his cult and maybe a few more, but he is not getting the kind of numbers that an incumbent should get. And then you look at the polling. So, by the way, that Ann Selzer,
49% of people showed up to Republican caucuses and voted for somebody other than Donald Trump. So, I mean, half glass
That's
empty,
right.
half glass
Exactly.
full. Okay. All right.
Okay, right. Okay. And so then you've got Ann Selzer, the famous pollster at the Des Moines Register. So their poll that came out right before the caucuses, and that is the gold standard, turned out to be spot on. I mean, it was so accurate. And so what did they find in that poll? This is my silver lining, okay? They found that fully 11% of these hardcore Republican caucus goers, the people who are not just like lean Republican or even think of themselves as Republican. These are caucus goers. These are the hardest of hardcore people, right?
You have to be hardy to go out, yes.
And you do. And these people, though, just caveat, I mean, these were people who were polled, not people who showed up. So there's that distinction. But they intended to, they were likely caucus goers, whatever. And some of them showed up, obviously, maybe not all, but 11% of them said that if Trump were the Republican Party nominee, they would vote for Biden. And 25% of them said they would vote for somebody other than Trump. Okay, that is a significant minority of the party. Especially considering the source. So if you're seeing those kind of numbers of disaffected Republicans and independents and others, but mostly Republicans in a state like Iowa, what does that say about the swing states where Republicans in Georgia and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, those states, Arizona, they're going to be deciding this election. And as we know, the last two elections were decided by just a few thousand votes in a few states. And if that many Republicans are disaffected, that bodes well for the general election. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is there's significant support for Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Right.
or for another third party guy. So the third party thing remains a big threat and has to be dealt with between now and November. But I think, we don't pay enough attention to the Republicans, and I quoted a couple of them in my piece. We think of these Republicans as being these, ensorcelled lunatics, who are all sort of frothing at the mouth and wearing red MAGA hats. But, there are lots of other Republicans out there, and some of them told the Washington Post, I voted for Trump, but, January 6th did it for me. I'm out.
Right.
And other people, so there are people out there already without our help who feel the way we do.
Well, and the Wall Street Journal editorial board also noticed some of the same things that you're talking about, saying, this vote revealed weaknesses for Trump in November. He could be a convicted felon by the summer. The Iowa entrance poll showed that no fewer than 32% of GOP caucus goers said that a conviction would be disqualifying. Now, let's say that's wrong by a factor of, it's half that. That's still a very, very big number of Republicans. A big number. So you make a really good point here. I think it's very easy to sort of think that the average Trump supporter is this red hat conspiracy theory, red hat wearing folks. There's a lot of Republicans who just go with the flow. They have sort of the muscle memory of voting for Republicans. They don't like Joe Biden. They don't like Democrats. They have a selective memory of Donald Trump, but they are not necessarily locked in, especially given many of the things that are going to happen in 2024. I think it is a mistake to just assume that all of the people who show up in the polls as Trump voters are solid Trump voters. Again, the hardcore MAGA base, forget that. There's nothing we can say to them. There's no event that will occur. Nothing that Trump will do will break them. We got that, okay? But and this is where I differ from some of our friends on people like Chris Christie. Okay, Chris Christie was not, or Liz Cheney. They're not going to change those people's minds. But they might change the minds of the 10, 20, maybe 30% of Republican voters that go, do I really want a convicted felon? Do I really want somebody who tried to overthrow the government? So I do think that's, and that was on display. I mean, can we just have a reality check? I'm not in denial about, the Iowa vote, but, you're talking about the numbers that look like a state legislative race in terms of the raw total. Donald Trump, with this decisive win that gives him this wind at the back, he got about 56 to 60,000 votes total. I mean, this is like 0.0006% of the population. And you got guys like Jack Posobiec. Did you see this? He's out on Twitter, basically now, listing all the people that he wants that will be arrested and sent to the camps now.
Good. Yeah.
No, I mean, this is just so you understand where they're coming from. Okay. So 56,000 Iowans voted for Trump. That is 0.000168% of the population. Jack Posobiec, who is big MAGA guy, says
Pizzagate
2025. Fonnie Willis arrested, Alvin Bragg arrested, Jack Smith arrested, Merrick Garland arrested, Victoria Nuland arrested. I mean, they're already like measuring the curtains for the camps. They're so excited about all this. Slow your roll, guys.
Yeah. There, he has, he certainly put down a red carpet for all of the fanatics, lunatics, crypto Nazis, and others who were lurking out there. And we see them on Twitter. And of course, Elon Musk has invited them all back. But again,
in droves.
We know people. I have members of my own family, who forget, how bad Trump was. It's like, the economy was good, et cetera. Yeah. People forget.
They're going to be reminded.
It's not like they don't. Yeah, they need to be reminded. They don't do what you and I do all the time, and what our listeners, pay attention really closely. They don't. And I think, can't prove this exactly, but I feel pretty confident, and it showed up in Sarah's focus groups, that when the January 6th hearings were ongoing in the summer of 2022, it really dampened the Trump enthusiasm. I mean, she was doing these focus groups and she would ask, how many people here want Trump to run again? And, lots of people, most people would not raise their hands. This was a change. And it penetrated that affected the mood
Okay.
of the Republicans. Yeah.
No, Donald Trump has made an interesting calculation, though. He's making the opposite calculation. He wants to highlight all of the trials. So there is the ongoing defamation trial by E. Jean Carroll, the woman that he raped. By the way, how many of these Republican caucus goers know that he raped a woman and care about it? But anyway, he is not only continuing to spew just massive amounts of invective at her, attacking her, continuing to defame her, he's showing up at court. So he thinks that showing up in the courthouse, this is the new rally. Okay, old and busted Trump rally. The new hotness for MAGA world is Donald Trump in the dock, Donald Trump in the witness, whatever. What do you think? How does this play?
Yeah. So he thinks, it has worked for him so far. After that first Alvin Bragg indictment, we did see a rally around effect, and it did set the tone. And whereas before that indictment, he was lagging behind DeSantis, after that indictment, he zoomed to the top and hasn't relinquished it.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, that set the template for how Republicans were supposed to react to all the indictments. And, then when the serious I am not a fan of the Alvin Bragg indictment. I said it on our Slack channel at the time.
I remember.
Said this isn't good. It was a bad indictment, for one thing, legally shaky. And also it came from a guy who had said, elect me and I will indict Trump. That's not good. That's not the way things are supposed to work. And in any event, it made it so easy for Trump people to say it's all political, it's all politically motivated. And so it set the template so that, they said, oh, well, these things are all politically motivated. Oh, here comes an indictment for mishandling classified documents, leaving them in a bathroom and obstructing justice. And instead of having to evaluate this, they said, oh, well, it's all political. Now, maybe they would have done that anyway. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think they would have, but I don't think it was helpful that the Bragg thing happened and set the tone. Okay.
And I think we thought that at the time, that it might not have been, that it was really unfortunate that that was the first one.
Very unfortunate. Okay. But
want to see the rest of the show? Get 30 days of Bulwark Plus membership absolutely free at thebulwark.com/free trial. And you can also find that link right here in the description.